All right, today we're jumping into one of the most ambitious, almost crazy ideas out there, turning the world's biggest hot desert into, well, its biggest power plant. We're talking about a project so vast it could literally reshape our entire energy future. Forever.
It all kicks off with this really audacious question. What if? What if we could just leapfrog fossil fuels entirely and capture the raw, unbelievable power of the sun from one single massive spot? Could the Sahara Desert really power the whole world? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But believe me, the numbers tell a really fascinating story.
Okay, so first up, let's just talk about the sheer potential here. We're about to get into just how much energy the sun is blasting down on the Sahara every single day, and what it would actually mean if we could harness even a tiny piece of that.
Okay, get ready for this number because it's just staggering. If we covered just a piece of the Sahara with solar panels, the projected energy we could get out of it every year is a massive 125,000 terawatt hours. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that's thousands of times more energy than the biggest nuclear power plants produce in a whole year. This isn't just a lot of power, folks. This is world-changing stuff.
And here's where it gets really wild. Let's see how that potential stacks up against what we actually use. If you take all the energy that North America and Europe consume in a year, you get to about 30,000 terawatt hours. So the projected output from the Sahara, it doesn't just meet that need. It completely, absolutely dwarfs it. We are talking about a literal ocean of surplus energy.
So what's the bottom line here? We are talking about enough clean energy to power everything. Every home, every car, every factory, across 2 entire continents, and then have enough left over to do it all again 3 more times. 4 times over. The potential here is, frankly, just mind-boggling.
But, potential is one thing. Actually doing it is something else entirely. And that brings us to the great big engineering puzzle we would have to solve to make this incredible vision a reality.
So the whole problem really boils down to 3 big hurdles. First, you've got generation. How do you actually capture all that sunlight as efficiently as possible? Second, and this one's a huge deal, is storage. What do you do when the sun goes down? How do you keep the lights on? And third, transmission. How in the world do you get all that power from the middle of the Sahara to cities that are thousands of kilometers away?
Okay, let's tackle that first one, generation. Right now, the solar panels we mass produce are pretty good, but they only convert about 23% of sunlight into electricity. They're kind of hitting a wall with the materials we use. For a project this huge to actually work, we'd need to get that efficiency up over 40%. That's a big jump. But here's the thing. Even if we had perfect panels, it doesn't solve that second problem, storage. The sun sets every night, but we need power 24/7, right? So we'd have to build battery farms on a scale nobody has ever even attempted. Or maybe use other crazy solutions, like storing heat in giant vats of molten salt. Either way, capturing the power and holding on to it, those are monumental challenges.
So, okay, let's say we figure out generation and storage. We still have to get that power where it needs to go. That's the third hurdle. Transmission. And this is where it gets really cool, because for this problem, we actually have a solution that works right now. It's called high voltage direct current, or HVDC for short. The best way to think about it is like a superhighway for electricity. These cables can move just enormous amounts of power over thousands and thousands of kilometers with barely any power loss along the way. So this isn't science fiction. This tech is real and it works. But even if we solve all the engineering problems, that's not the whole story, is it? We have to ask, what actually happens when you give the desert a brand new skin made of silicon and glass? We have to get really serious about the environmental footprint of a project this big.
So how much land are we actually talking about here? Well, the project would need to cover around 110,000 square kilometers. That's an area a little smaller than Greece. It's huge. But, and this is the really important part, that massive footprint is still only 1.2% of the entire Sahara Desert. So it's this weird paradox, right? It's enormous from our perspective, but it's just a tiny little sliver of the desert itself.
Now, you can't just cover an area the size of Greece with solar panels and expect nothing to happen. There would definitely be consequences. For one, the dark panels absorb way more heat than light-colored sand. It's a thing called the albedo effect, and it could mess with regional weather patterns. The panels would also radiate all that heat back out, which could warm up the local climate. And, of course, you'd be disrupting the habitats of all the unique and surprisingly tough plants and animals that call the Sahara home. These are really serious things to think about.
So here's where we are.
On one hand, you have this absolutely incredible potential. On the other, you have these monumental challenges, both with the tech and the environment. And that brings us to the final idea here. What if we reframe these huge hurdles not as problems, but as, well, as a vision for tomorrow?
You know, there's this quote that just feels perfect for this moment. The greatest threats we face can only be solved by the greatest of our dreams. And a project on this scale, it's exactly that, isn't it? It's a dream that's big enough to match the very real, very huge challenges we face with energy and climate.
So the takeaway from all of this is pretty clear. The hurdles are immense. I mean, from the panel tech to the environmental impact, you just can't downplay how hard this would be. But the payoff? The payoff is the ultimate prize. It's a planet powered by clean, basically limitless energy, all coming from the sun.
And that leaves us with one last really big question. Is this kind of audacious, world-changing vision, is this our planet's next great project? Like building the pyramids or going to the moon. Is this the challenge that's going to define our generation? That is the dream we're left to think about.